Hey ho, welcome back to the Potato Museum show. We are going to tiptoe into the 80s
Actually, a
now.
big strides.
Well, maybe big strides, but at the time it felt a little bit teeny tiny, but yay! What a great era that was.
It was. So we were living in Belgium, and in 1979, Brussels was celebrating its 1,000th anniversary as existence. They invited journalists from all over the world, and one of them was the New York Times' Larry Miller, who didn't want to see any more lace museums. He said, "Well, what's this? What's this thing about the Potato Museum?" They said, "Oh, that's that thing that they're doing up at the International School." He says, "I want to go see it." So he did, and he was impressed. He wrote this wonderful article and published it in the New York Times, and it was a turning point in the history of our family and the museum, because this guy, Joe McCann on the left there, vice president of marketing for Frito-Lay, based in Texas, read the article. He was a New Yorker. He read the article and he invited me, all expenses paid, first class to Dallas to meet with him because he wanted to hire me, and he actually did hire me to do 2 nationwide media tours on behalf of Frito-Lay, talking about the goodness of the potato. There we are. We were out running. There's his wife Ann, and
It's interesting how one event led to the next. In other words, big organized events led to smaller events, and so the thing just ballooned and ballooned.
It did. So I did this 2 nationwide tours over 2 years, and this is they hired Burson Marsteller, a public relations firm in New York, to accompany me all over, to train me and all this. Let's look at this video. So in the early 1980s, I was hired by Frito-Lay to just talk about the goodness of the potato and go to media tours and museums. It was all sponsored. I was public relations person. Marsteller, I had a person go around. They helped me do all this. And it says Thomas Hughes, the founder of all this, is sort of the media kit. This was the response that that they would show to how
to promote Lay's potato chips.
So this is all the background that they prepared, and then all the tour places that I went, and how I was trained to do all this. And then this is the interviews, lots of pages of different interviews that I did, and appearances I made at the Boys and Girls Clubs and Science Museums, and the impact, how many.
You're such a big shot.
Total potential audience.
Oh my God.
Television, interviews.
Okay.
And then what was fun is there's lots of printouts of the things.
From local newspapers.
Look, just want to tell you how well received your potato workshops with Tom Hughes were all well attended. This is the Space Center in San Diego. Always want to have him come back.
Well, we could go back this.
Oh, look at that. South Boston Boys and Girls Clubs. So had a great media. At one point, I was kind of a minor media celebrity.
No, you were major. You were potato.
So here's some of those clippings we're just showing you. But one of the great things about doing this nationwide tour was actually hanging around kids in after-school clubs and just having them react to all these things. I had this old potato peeler that was mechanical potato peeler on the basket there, and the kids just loved it. So I was in my element working with kids.
And it's interesting that a lot of the quote adults had no clue how exciting this would be for their kids.
So
and yet it was.
So the Burson Marsteller put together with me a show. So we did shows at these schools, and not just these small workshops. And one of the things was always fun, and I've been doing this for kids. They take a potato out of a bag, usually an odd shaped potato, and then they have to compose a story about the potato. And this is things I've been doing with kids for years, and we passed it all on. Here's some. Some of these were small groups, and then, for instance, in Wilmington, I did 600 fourth and fifth graders first assembly, and then back to back with 356 graders. So these are huge assemblies, very enthusiastic, successful programs, and you can see the gratitude that the organizers had, sending letters to appreciate what we were doing. I was a guest judge at the First Long Island Potato Festival. This was something that they also organized. I'm listed as the Potato King, founder and curator of the world's only
He's
potato
lapping
museum.
this up, by the way. All these years later.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful to have found all these old images. So yeah, people submitted their favorite potato recipes. There I am congratulating some kid who won some recipe. And here's another congratulation. I love this. You want to read this or not?
Congratulations.
Oh wow, a perfect gentleman, and in
Oh,
all
wow.
aspects respects the Potato King. Tom provided the touch of class
Oh, shit.
that
I mean,
not only instilled more press coverage but garnered the additional credibility of an activity such as
is that
this.
because you were a white guy?
Maybe, I don't know. So anyway, so she sent this picture along of me being interviewed by the Long Island TV station. All the teachers, we got this poster, which was organized also by the Burson Marsteller with my input, so the teachers had something to leave behind for all activity sheets, and this was a huge success. I got to meet be interviewed with some what became pretty famous people. This is
Dave Letterman. I
Dave
believe
Letterman.
this was his third show
Third or fourth show, yeah,
in 1982.
Yeah, I had fun with that. I also got to meet Pat Sajak before he was a star on Wheel of Fortune. He was doing a weekend. He was a local weather guy in Los Angeles. He was doing a weekend program. This was at a historic ranch outside Los Angeles. It was on location, and here I am with all my potato stuff talking to Pat Sajak. I think my favorite interview I've ever done, TV appearance, was with this guy, Jerry Bishop, on Sun Up San Diego. The first program I was on, it was 8 minutes. It was so successful, the audience responded so incredibly that they invited me back the next day, which they'd never done before. So there we are. The next day, I just did a video. There's a video up on this show, and you can see it on. So among other people that I met along the way were Dee Dee Sharp, a fellow Philadelphian who is famous for mashed potato time, and Tina Turner and I were on the same talk show in New York City, and we were in the green room talking about potatoes, and she was telling me that she growing up poor in Tennessee, and it was frequently all they had was potatoes. She remembers digging them, planting them, and all that sort of. This is an AI representation
Thank you for mentioning that.
of this,
Yeah.
because there's no actual pictures of it. But she was just making a career comeback. Tina Turner, one of the greats. Another one of the greats is Peggy Fitzgerald. I was on her program, her radio program, overlooking from her apartment overlooking Central Park, and I was a big fan, and so was my mother-in-law, Meredith's mother, of this show, and it was a great honor to be with her. We moved from Belgium to D.C., and we moved into this townhouse and set up a exhibition in the gallery space in the basement. Let's look at this video.
With all that meat and no potatoes.
You get the flavor of the Potato Museum as soon as you hear the tuber tunes at the entrance. From the foreign potato posters on the walls to the antique potato chip cans on the floor, here the lowly spud is king.
Potato, in fact, we think a good case could be made is the most important food plant on earth.
In the basement of their Capitol Hill townhouse, Tom and Meredith Hughes collect potatoes the way other museums collect Picassos. Visit this museum and you'll see as many as 400 pieces of potato memorabilia, ranging from a gold potato Christmas tree ornament to a tater time clock powered by the acids in potatoes. Then you'll be invited to become a couch potato. The museum shows videotapes of great moments in potatoes from Hollywood movies.
It's really nice. It's sort of homey. And a potato's sort of a homey subject, anyway.
The museum got started in 1975 after Tom Hughes became interested in potatoes while teaching fifth graders about them in Belgium. Who visits the museum?
We get museum groupies here who are, the kind of people who just want to go to every museum in the world that's on a list. And then we have people who come here just because they love potatoes.
The museum has everything from posters of Marilyn Monroe, about whom it was said she'd look good in a potato sack, to potato sack jackets. The Hughes say they'll probably be spuds in space.
The potato has very little waste. It's almost a perfect food.
The museum is a not-for-profit organization, but if you want to visit, remember to call ahead. You have to have an appointment. After all, these are no small potatoes.
All that meat and no potatoes.
Since their lease expires next summer in Washington, the owners of the Potato Museum are looking for a new community to call home.
Oh, God, a blonde.
So here, some images of that we put together of what the exhibit looked like on Capitol Hill, and you can see lots of our collection. I think it looked great, and lots of things for people to look at and enjoy. We had people come who were on a first date, who decided to come to the. There was lots of publicity about it. All sorts of people were writing it up, so there was lots of demand and interest, and all these school groups came, which was always some of my favorite things to deal with, and you get to use these tools that I got in Peru and all that. So, and we did all these hands-on experiments and math stuff. It was just a wonderful educational opportunity for everybody. Look at that old slide projector that we had, which we show shows on. This is anyway, so this is a little bit of what it looked like in Capitol Hill. We also became a Couch Potato Lodge. We got involved with these guys who were kind of making fun of the potato a little bit, and people who were hanging around watching too much TV. They were tubers, and we got to meet all these guys and become one of their lodges. Meredith and I wrote this book, The Great Potato Book. There I am selling copies and T-shirts and other merchandise at the market near where we lived in Capitol Hill. Another stop was a nice bookstore down the street where we did a little program with the kids, and they got to do some potato printing and that kind of thing. So there was no venue too small for us. We started getting written up by professional organizations. Here's the American Potato Society Journal, encouraging people to come, when they're in Washington, to come see what we were doing in this exhibit. And look at this. The American University organized a tour training docents for museums, and we were one day. The next day, they took people to the State Department Americana Room. So we were in pretty fancy company. And another day, they took the docents in training to Frederick Douglass House. So we were starting to really get recognized and as accomplished institution. We were also mentioned here in America's Strangest Museums book and other things like that. Along the way, we met these people, Ann and John Niederhauser, who became huge supporters, financial, and just friends of what we were doing.
And Ann Niederhauser.
Ann Niederhauser and John Niederhauser. And he is a famous potato scientist known all over the world. And he won the World Food Prize for his work on various potato diseases. And that World Food Prize was started by Norman Borlaug, who won the Nobel Prize for Peace for his efforts to feed the world. And here's John and Norman kind of fooling around. They had a great sense of humor. We got to meet both of them. These are two seriously important world food scientists. We became a nonprofit. Here's the first board of directors, right? And the first board of directors meeting, and this included those two guys that started the International Potato Center. One of the things, we started to get some funding, and so we would be able to buy some equipment, educational equipment, and including that slide projector that we showed you earlier. Japanese documentary film crew came to film us, and they were doing a documentary about the potato globally, and we arranged for them to have an all-potato dinner at the world-famous Watergate restaurant, which was the celebrity chef was Jean-Francois Paladin, and he got totally into all this, and prepared, I think, a 7 or 8 course meal. Every part of it was potatoes, and all the drinks were too. And it was just a fabulous experience. And we invited our friends and the Japanese journalist. There's Phyllis Richmond, by the way, the food critic of the Washington Post, was there as well. Along the way, we were going to libraries and collecting this. This is the first cookbook, basically, in English about the potato, and we saw this in British Library. I was here. I got to be named I got to be named the Independent School Teacher of the Year. And through the Klingenstein Foundation. This was a huge honor that I was named by my peers and for excellence in teaching elementary school. And as a reward, I got a free trip to Peru to participate in Earthwatch research team and with potato scientist and ecologist from Cornell, Deborah Rabinowitz. We're going to do a whole program about this, but that was a great honor. I was on a scholarship, but these other folks paid their way to participate in this Earthwatch project, and it was we were helping the scientists explore genetic diversity of wild potatoes in Peru. So there I am out in the field, meeting and working with farmers.
Meanwhile, guess what I was doing?
What were you doing?
I had a baby.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we were writing or working on that book, the publisher of the book also was pregnant, and I was pregnant. The writer, I did most of the writing, let's face it. But the funny thing is, then Tom gets this thing, and off he goes.
I was off for about 6 weeks to Peru, which
it was quite
phenomenal.
Something.
I got to go to Machu Picchu.
Our kid was born in 1983.
Yeah. So when I was about to leave, one of these scientists gave me these very valuable, interesting ceramics in the shape of potatoes that were pre-Inca. And I accepted it for the collection, and then I had better thoughts. I didn't want to get stopped at the airport. I was so anxious to get back to my little family that I gave these to one of the guys, and I never saw them again. One of my regrets, but my main thing was I was away from my little family too long, and I wanted to get back. So there you go. I was invited to participate in the Asian Potato Association conference. We went there. I gave a talk in the Kunming,
But this was 3 or 4 years later.
Yeah, and they took us on after the conference. The scientists went up to a remote part of the Tibetan Plateau where they were growing potatoes in an experimental way, and here the whole village turned out to greet the scientists as we got off the bus.
There he is.
Here's our little tater tot in the potato field in China, and we were there studying, looking at an experimental way that they were growing potatoes, and look at him running through the field. Everywhere we went, of course, all our travels, we collected things, and we lugged those baskets that they were used to carry potatoes. We lugged them back through the airport and all that. On our way back out of China, we stopped in Japan and were guests of the Kawagoe Sweet Potato Society. And this is a community outside of Tokyo, famous for growing sweet potatoes. And they, for a century, they've been bringing tourists out from Tokyo to dig sweet potatoes and have a day out. And you would see these geishas who were these postcards showing, it's kind of a souvenir of the trip, and you can see that this is still going on today. People are still out there celebrating the sweet potato. We can't find our photos of our participation there, but there were these restaurants and these shops just providing wonderful sweet potato products.
And the sweet potato is not related to the potato.
Exactly. It's
Underscore
morning glory.
that, please.
But we got discovering it because people were always asking about it. We also went to Louisiana, famous for its yams, which are sweet potatoes, and we got all into that too. I've been to Spuds, Florida, Potato City, Pennsylvania, and I was guest speaker, banquet speaker at the Idaho Potato School. You can see there the banquet. We've been in and out of Idaho for years, big potato producing state. Also, we've been in and out of Maine, where another traditional and large potato producer on the other side of the. Along the way, we've been collecting things. This in Idaho Falls, they had a team named the Russets, which is a type of potato that they're famous for. We got one of the team uniforms, and we went in Maine to Spud Speedway and got all their memorabilia. This is one of the great articles that was written about what we were doing. Let Us Now Praise Famous Potatoes. Great article. We were written up in all sorts of business journals, as you know, taking a serious look at what we were doing. Look at that, Washington Business Journal, the Wall Street Journal front page. How many people have been on the Wall Street Journal front page, right?
Yeah.
When the landlord wanted to have the townhouse back in Capitol Hill, we had to close it and move out to Virginia. And this, I was, by the way, still teaching all the time, and Meredith was working. We were, all of this time that we were doing all of this was all on the side because we had a full-time jobs. But we were the New York Times wrote that we were looking for a new home. 6 states are vying to house a 2-room exhibit. And when we closed it, the Washington Post wrote this wonderful editorial about the Museum of Second Helpings.
And
So
I can't see the date.
all the time along, we were collecting things. This is, we were up in Northern California, and there was this kind of shabby grocery store that had this wonderful baked potato display, and I got to have it, and we've been moving it ever since. And the next...
Coming up next
Yeah, the 1990s.
is the biggie, 2 biggies.
2 major
And
exhibitions.
we won't tell you about them quite yet.
Yeah, but you can see that baked potato that I collected and hauled all over the place ended up in a major exhibition in Ottawa, Canada. So that's the 19...
Not to mention the Smithsonian.
Right. We're going to be talking all
Thank
about
you.
that in our next video. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.